So what's up and welcome back to my channel. It's JVceo. If you're here for the first time, make sure you subscribe. So for some of you who have followed me for a while, you would know that I was in the middle of purchasing two properties. Well, they both fell through, and I'll be explaining that later on in the video. For now, I'm on more viewings because I need to source a property for a client, and I also need to get a property for myself as well. So I'm on more viewings. I'll try and show you some of the properties that I am viewing today, and then later on at the end, I will break down what went wrong, how I lost the two properties, how much I lost trying to secure that particular deal or those particular deals, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, in the meantime, make sure you hit the subscribe button, like and comment.
There's no rush now, by the way.
You sure?
Yeah.
All right, no problem. Thank you. So basically, viewings are done for today. I'm in the area and I'm going through my mate's house. He's renovating it at the moment. Just want to see what it looks like. I'll show it to you guys as well. And then after this, I'll talk about how I lost the two deals, what I could do differently next time, and what I'm doing to see if I can actually recover the deals. But yeah, stay tuned. So what's the plan exactly with this place once you're done? Rent it, put it back on the market, rent it. If I'm correct, rent it and forget about it. If I'm correct, right, the council actually, or someone, a company of some sort may be able to like take it and have it as like an emergency accommodation. How does that work?
Yeah, well, I'm sure that they're going to take it and basically like, when there's people that are
Like homeless people and
homeless or probably like domestic violence or probably going to.
it's like a sanctuary, like a safe haven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. And what, do you know what the day rate would be for that? This is good though, man, compared to what it was before.
But I feel like once
Sick, man, this is good. You've done really well.
look much more
Yeah, this is good.
like a whole.
This is good. What about the heater by the front room? What's the plan for that?
I'm going to remove that. Look, look.
Ah, yes.
You get it?
Yeah. See how that's popped the house already? Literally. That corner has popped now, literally. Yeah, I'm impressed, man. This is sick, bruv. Sick. The kitchen is already good.
Buy some doors, though.
Huh?
Buy some doors.
No, you don't really need to buy doors. You just need to paint them. Paint them. Liquor paint over it and it looks new again.
I'm destroyed like with holes and shit.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
What door is that for?
That's for the bedroom upstairs.
Oh yeah, you probably should buy a new one. But these doors are cheap. If you were talking about the main doors. Right, for those of you watching up until this point, you may know from a few weeks back that I was in the process of buying 2 properties. I'll put the link up here for those of you that haven't watched it. The properties, great price. It was on the market for 30,000. I had both on the offer for 24,000 each. Everything was going smooth until 2 days before I was due to fly out on holiday. I got an email saying that the landlord was pulling out. And just a bit of a background, right before closing, because obviously the searches were coming back on the 3rd. So around the 1st, I called the agents just to make sure that everything was still intact and that I would be coming to see the property for one last time to make sure that it was still in the same condition as it was when I actually picked it up and made an offer. So anyways, with that in mind, the agent then shared with me that one of the properties, the one that was boarded up, had been broken into. And with that being said, the boiler had also been stolen, and they broke another extra window. And I thought, you know what, that's easily a £3,000 job in terms of the replacement of the window, the boiler, and so on and so forth. So I put in another revised offer, and with that revised offer in mind, you know, the vendor refused to proceed with the sale. But even reverting back to the original sort of £24,000 that we initially agreed it at, he still didn't want to proceed with the sale. So it is my opinion that, you know, it's not the revised offer. He wouldn't have proceeded with the sale regardless. And I attribute that to a number of reasons. Number one being potential greed on his part, because recently a property on the street just sold for around £45,000, and there's another property on the street for around, it's on the market for like 40,000 on auction. Probably maybe get closer to like 45,000, 50,000 once it actually goes and sell. So my view is maybe the landlord wants to, do the project himself, add that, £3,000 to £4,000 collectively across both properties, fix it up and actually make the profit himself. His profit, if he sold at 45,000, his profit would range from 15 to 18,000 thereabout. So that's one of my opinion. My second opinion is poor communication between, of course, the agents being the middle person between me and the vendor. Poor communication from them. They probably weren't keeping them up to date with certain things. Because, for example, when I spoke to the agents, they said, oh, the landlord doesn't know about the broken window or the broken boiler. This is something they should have told him immediately, so that he anticipates that, the potential buyer might want to put in a reduced offer again. So that's one. And with that being said, actually, even when I lost the properties, the estate agents, unfortunately, didn't even offer a replacement. So they haven't even opened their books to me to see, what they could do about that and how they can rectify that. So that's that. Another reason why I lost the property is, unfortunately, due to coronavirus, the searches in that particular area have been taking long. If you buy properties, you know that there are always searches. Your solicitors will usually conduct searches, which would include like local authority searches, but also searches against the property to make sure that there's no outstanding debt on the property. Unfortunately, due to coronavirus, the searches took longer than usual. It took around 3 weeks to actually come out. So the searches were due out on the 3rd, and the vendor pulled out 3rd of August, and the vendor pulled out on the 1st of August. So in hindsight, I'm almost biting my lip. I'm almost kicking myself and saying, maybe I shouldn't have waited for the searches. Maybe I should just close it without the searches and then figure it out later, which would be a really bad habit that could cost you thousands of pounds if anything was to go wrong with that particular purchase. So, as much as it's easy talking in hindsight, I think I probably made the right decision waiting for the searches to actually come out. What other reason? I think that's probably about it in terms of the reasons why I lost the property. I will say that the searches is probably the main reason as to why I lost the property. So what have I lost in numbers? Let's talk about the numbers, because we love talking numbers on this channel. What have I lost in numbers? So I paid for the surveys on both properties. So that's £400 each. That's around £800. I paid for the deposit in terms of solicitor fees on both properties, again around £400 each. So that's around another £800. That's 1,600 in total. And then if you consider, you know, me just going up and down to the property, petrol, the car, and so on and so forth, that's probably about another £400, you know, in transport cost. So that's about £2,000 that I personally lost out on with regards to those property. And now, something I haven't shared with you guys. At the moment, I'm in the middle of several purchases, including back home. I'm in the middle of some land purchases back home, but I'm in the middle of a third property, which I haven't actually shared about on YouTube. I've just kept that as an ace card up my sleeve, essentially speaking. But, you know, I've been, I wouldn't necessarily say financially stretched, but I chose to pull out of one of the property, but not necessarily pull out to the lender. I knew that I pulled out from it. Although I still had the contracts to buy both properties, I decided to change the memorandum of sale on one of the property. I told the estate agents, and I sold one of the property, or the rights to buy one of the property. I sold it onto another client, basically sourcing the property, essentially speaking. But in this case, I already had the property on the table. So I sold it to another client for £4,000, which would have brought his total spend to £28,000, which would have still been a great offer for him. So he paid me that. Bearing in mind, it was a client I was familiar with. He paid me the money in full. But now with me losing the property, you know, I'm down to two options. I have to either source him another property or potentially have to refund back the money he paid, that whole £4,000. So 4,000 plus potential, the £2,000 that I've already lost. There's no potential there. I've already lost that money. That makes £6,000. So potentially that will be my loss on the property. If we now factor in future earnings on those two properties would have been at least, I think my YouTube video that I made on the property, I think we worked out to be around, I believe, £40,000 across both properties. So £40,000 plus also £6,000 that I've lost, or that I've 4,000 off the 6,000 I may lose. That brings it up to, you know, 42 to 46,000 pounds. So that's the number we're sitting on right now, unfortunately. So it's mind-boggling numbers, but everything happens for a reason. And I have learnt, you know, a huge lesson. I've learnt a huge lesson. Could I have done certain things differently? Potentially. Maybe I shouldn't have put in another revised offer, because maybe that's what ticked off the vendor. But with that being said, maybe even if I didn't do that, the vendor may have still pulled out. Maybe I shouldn't have waited for the searches. You know, maybe I should have at least exchanged contracts first and then done the searches. Because, you know, up until you exchange contracts, there's no legal protection for the buyer and even the seller. I could have pulled out of the deal at that point as well, and the seller wouldn't have been able to do anything. So that's that. It's really frustrating. I'm back on the motorway again. I'm sourcing properties again. I'm working my leads up there, because at the end of the day, I now have a client I have to supply a property to, and he's priority at the moment. So that's the situation. In the interest of transparency, that's why I've done this video, because I want you guys to know what the update is. If you have any questions, pop it down in the comment section below. Someone actually asked me to do a video on, or to address how cash buyers work. So I'll probably do that as a separate video. I have it on my list. I'll do that as a separate video. Look out for that in future. And thank you for watching, man. You guys are the backbone of this channel, and I appreciate every single one of you. Thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share the channel. And by the way, actually, I forgot to mention something. I went the extra mile to try and get this property back. What I forgot to mention is, I actually went up to the area whilst I was viewing other properties. I drove to the vendor's house, because I had, you know, I had the vendor's details, and I actually hand-delivered, you know, a letter to the vendor, which I'll put up on the screen right now. I hand-delivered a note to the vendor. I offered to pay for his solicitor fees. Unfortunately, I haven't heard back from the vendor, so potentially that deal is lost. I'm going to try one more time, though. I'd send a letter. You know, I'll post a letter probably tomorrow and see if there's any way we can salvage that deal and put it back together. If we can't, then we can't. The news is that potentially the vendor is looking to either do the renovation themselves, or potentially go to auction. Because if he goes to auction, he will probably get a lot more than the £24,000 that I'd offered him. So that's the situation. Wish me luck. I'm back on the property market in terms of for 2 cheap properties around that 30 grand mark. But also, we're buying properties in other areas. I'm helping other clients buy properties in other areas. And that's it. Thank you for watching. And you have a great weekend. Right, so this is an edit. And I must say, probably, you know, one of the main reasons why I lost the property was probably greed on my part. And it takes a very honest and transparent person to own up to that. I should not have made a second revised offer or a third revised offer for £21,000. Because he may have just thought, you know what, I wasn't being serious. And because remember, I got it in from 30 to 26 to 24 and then yet another revised offer. I should have just taken the loss in terms of the boiler being stolen and the back windows being smashed. I think that may have just ticked off the vendor, but that's a lesson on my end. You know, enjoy every win, no matter how small, and stop trying to stretch each single win as far as you can. Sometimes just take the win and move on to the next thing. So that's a learning process for me anyways.